The story that you have just heard about Edward Jenner relates to the story of vaccination and how modern vaccinations were accomplished. These had actually been in existence for a lot longer than that. A lady called Lady Mary Wortley Montagu, she was the wife of the ambassador to Turkey. And when she was in her travels, she noticed that the witch doctors used to make poultices out of the scabs from people with smallpox, which was wiping out vast proportions of society. And they would scratch the skin of people and apply them to the poultices. And Lady Mary Wortley Montagu, in fact, had one of her children vaccinated in this manner by a witch doctor in front of the royal court. So there was a longer history of vaccination than that which is accredited to for Edward Jenner. Just wanted to point that out to you in the historical reckoning of it. Vaccination is one form of immunisation. So I want to break down immunisation for us. So immunisations can take either of two forms. They can be active immunisations or they can be passive. If they are active immunisations, you are being inoculated with the antigens. That means when I use the word inoculation, that's what's being introduced into your body. So if antigens are introduced into your body, then your body's response is going to be to create antibodies. As a consequence of that, you usually develop long-term immunity. And the reason for that is because when you are creating those antibodies yourself, what you're building up is memory cells. And these are what's going to govern the long-term immunity. I remind you at this point that the memory cells are just B plasma lymphocytes which embed the antibodies in the surface, which are capable of circulating through your body in perpetuity, preferably. So that's what's happening with those. So active immunity can come in a couple of forms. You can have active immunity that is natural. So you acquire the antigens through natural contact, something along the lines of walking through somebody's sneeze cloud or touching surfaces that they've touched or picking up a fomite such as a handkerchief. So this is natural contact. This is everyday contact that you might achieve. Whereas to have the antigen introduced into your body, you can also do that through an acquired mechanism. So that's something along the lines of an injection specifically. Passive immunity, what you're inoculated with, what's introduced into your body, is just the antibodies themselves. So you're creating an immunity as a consequence of just receiving the antibodies, which will defeat the antigens that are probably present in your body. As a consequence, you do not produce antibodies yourself. And because you don't produce antibodies yourself, you will not have long-term immunity. You will only have the short-term immunity that is created as a consequence of the proteins, antibodies, that have been introduced into your body, and they will only have a duration of around about 30 days. You don't produce memory cells as a consequence. And therefore, you don't have that long-term immunity. Like your immunisation, which is an active mechanism, you can have it through natural or acquired as well. If it's natural, it's because you achieved the antibodies being introduced into your body through things like breast milk or through the placenta, or perhaps it's through inoculation or injection with a particular set of antibodies that have been cloned within a laboratory, and expressly used for the purposes of giving to someone who has acquired a particular disease. That is your acquired method of achieving immunity. There's a couple of graphs I want to show you with regard to how this works. You'll see these graphs time and time again in practice questions. We'll come back to those in just a second.